Hey guys, my name is Kevin. I'm a DP out of the LA Orange County area, and today we're doing a production breakdown for a commercial job that I recently directed and DP'd. Let's jump in. This video kicks off a series where I'm sharing all the details, all the info, all the behind the scenes, cameras, lighting, gear, and everything that goes into my productions. This will be a 5-part series covering a 5-day long commercial production that I recently directed and DP'd. Part 1, which is this video, will be all about pre-production. Part 2, which is next week's video, will cover all the scenes from day 1. Part 3, the following week, will cover all the scenes from day 2, and then part 4 after that will cover all the scenes from day 3. And then finally part 5, which will cover all the scenes from days 4 and 5. As well as a debrief where I kind of get a little vulnerable and I talk about my mistakes, the biggest takeaways, the biggest lessons I learned, just going throughout the entire production so that you can take that knowledge going into your next big project. I'm so pumped. I'm so glad to be sharing all this behind the scenes and all these details that go into this production. Make sure you subscribe, hit the bell notification, as I'm going to be releasing these weekly for the next 5 weeks. Okay, let's jump into part 1, pre-production. So it kind of all started when my buddy Grant gave me a call. Grant from Finders Pictures, Grant and Matt actually. Go check them out, by the way. I'll put their name right here. I love these guys. Shout out to my boyfriends. I love you. Anyway, they gave me a call to talk about kind of directing and DPing a commercial for who was doing a campaign launch for one of their programs. And I had been friends with these guys for a while now, and I've worked with them on smaller jobs, doing like cam ops and stuff here and there. So we talked a little bit about the project and whether or not we would both be a good fit. And it turned out, you know, it was a really good fit. And so yeah, that's how I got the job. So going into pre-production, the biggest challenge was that we were fighting against time. We didn't have much time at all. We actually had like a week to pre-plan and pre-produce a shoot that was going to last an entire week, 5 days, with a ton of different locations, ton of moving parts, just kind of logistically was a lot to plan in 1 week. So needless to say, we didn't waste any time and we quickly jumped into pre-pro and we just started formulating a plan of attack and kind of how we wanted to go about, you know, shooting this and achieving our goals for this job in particular. So the first step of pre-production is just to determine what our goals were and what we were looking at in terms of this project and kind of like sizing it up in a way. Grant started with sending me a brief. He sent me a mood board and a brief just to kind of give me an idea of what the overall look and feel was that we were after. And looking at the mood board, we saw that it was, you know, high key, very bright, approachable looks, showing off different people in different healthy activities, doing healthy things, stuff like that. So from there, I put together like a video treatment. As the director, you kind of have to have some sort of vision. It may not end up being the final way that the spot looks, but you have to at least give like a visual representation of, you know, your take of how this could look. The client's initial vision was to capture several B-roll montages like most lifestyle commercials. So my treatment kind of supported that idea. And more importantly, it helped narrow down our target and our goals for this ad. It doesn't have to be super specific, but it has to give, you know, start to narrow down the concept and the idea. And so from there, when I submitted the video treatment, we jumped on the call, me, the client, the agency, we jumped on a Zoom call and we started to get our creative juices flowing and really start to narrow down on this target. Once we were all kind of on the same page about the vision and the concept, I created a storyboard to really dial in even further to specifics from shot to shot and the flow of the edit and the flow of what I saw as the director and how I saw it, you know, playing out. So after a few revisions of the storyboard, it was time for us to lock in the locations. Unfortunately, due to our rushed, you know, just the rush to crush through pre-pro because we had such a short time, I didn't have a chance to go on those location scouts. I don't think any of us did. We just kind of looked at Airbnbs and we looked at different pictures of these locations and we thought that it would fit the mood, but more on that later in the debrief. So after we locked in storyboard and location and mood and vibe and stuff, it was time for us to look at gear packages, which is like my favorite part. If you know anything about me, you'll know that I have gas, which is not the gas you're probably thinking about, although my fiance would beg to differ, but it's gas. Gear acquisition syndrome. I have a bad case of it and I need healing. Pray for me. I have a group that I talk to all the time, just kind of like a support group. Griffin, Tyler, you guys know what I mean. Anyway, so it's time for us to choose our gear packages. And this is something, again, that I wait till the end of pre-production to kind of choose. Once you've locked in locations and you know those sort of details, I try to let those details inform which gear packages that I choose, making sure that I just choose like the best tools for the job. I put that list together and I sent it over to a buddy of mine who has a rental house, and we started kind of putting it all together. As far as camera package goes, I chose to shoot the entire week on the Alexa Mini and Cook S4 Primes, just for continuity, just keep the same camera system throughout the entire week. And for the majority of the time, I had planned on flying the camera package on an EasyRig Vario 5 for 90% of the shoot. We had 2 grip trucks to cover all of our grip needs. And then lighting, we had a couple Gemini 2x1 panels, an M18, and then an an M40. We also had a Jenny truck just to power all those big HMIs and not have to rely on house power and tripping circuits like I always do when I use HMIs. By the way, lighting this with the 600D just right over here, the new Aperture 600D, check it out. I have a review. I'll put a little card in one of these corners. Awesome light. Lastly, I crewed up and I tried to find just the best people that I know that know how to use the tools, that are just good people. First, I had my first AC, Lee Tran. I had 2 grips, Dylan Whitten and Mark Mason, and then a G&E swing, Anthony Souza, and then of course myself as director and DP. I love these guys. They're awesome. Major shout out. They clean up my mess. They make me look so much better than I actually am. And so I am so grateful for the people that are around me, and I would encourage you guys to call these guys if you need help, if you need to crew up on any of your productions, if you're in Southern California. Even if you're not, these guys are worth to fly out. I'll put all their names and stuff in the description. Shout out to my boys. Love you. We had one day to prep gear. We had one final call with the crew just to tie up any loose ends, and then we were ready to jump into production. So really with pre-production, from front to back, is just a process where you take a big idea and you reverse engineer it so that you can execute it. The more specific you get and the more time you take in pre-production, it pays off. Locations, gear, crew, actors, booking, logistics, all of this stuff goes into making a great production. All right. Thank you so much for watching this production breakdown. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification. I'm going to be releasing part 2 of this series next week, which will be breaking down the scenes from our first day on location. We're going to be in Malibu. You're not going to want to miss it. This is where all the good stuff is. So I'll see you next week for part 2. Have a good one, guys. See you next week.